Hey everyone, welcome back to Poplar Preparedness, or welcome if this is your first time. I spend a lot of time looking at shortages, and you do well in the next few moments to listen for a little bit while I give you the Cliff Notes version of what's going on with the supply chain shortages, what I've been seeing over the last number of months, what's kind of going to be coming to a head in the next few months as we go into the holiday season. Let's talk about what's already appearing as shortages and what will probably imminently be showing up on your store shelves as shortages. All right, let's jump right into it. Folks, lettuce. Lettuce. Yes, you heard that right. Lettuce. We're already seeing shortages of this at certain fast food restaurants. When major fast food restaurant chains like Wendy's and Burger King can't find lettuce, you should be paying attention, because it's not going to be all that long before store shelves start seeing that shortage as well. What's going on with that? Well, it's pretty simple. A lot of the lettuce is grown, particularly out in the California area during the summertime, and they haven't been getting enough water. They have a drought out there, and the irrigation has been shut off to a lot of places. But then a lot of the lettuce production shifts over to Arizona area, and that is going to be having issue because of the drought as well. Also, labor shortages, parts, all that kind of stuff. We're just seeing lettuce is not being produced as fast as it's being consumed across the United States, and so we're seeing rippling shortages happening, particularly with large supply chains like major fast food restaurants. They're having trouble sourcing enough lettuce. You may have noticed in your grocery store that lettuce heads getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Unfortunately, that's the same kind of deal, and the prices keep going up. Because of the bad weather, also a lot of the lettuce that has been harvested has been smaller, and that has been passed on to consumers. Okay, so that's a big one going on there. Before I go into the next ones, let me just throw out there that this video is being sponsored by Genesis Gold Group. If you want to talk about investments, your retirement accounts, your 401k, IRA, you should probably talk to Jonathan over at Genesis Gold Group about moving some or all of your assets over to physical gold, physical silver, or physical platinum. You can do that inside your IRA, inside your 401k, without triggering those tax things. Check for the description down below to find Genesis Gold Group there. All right, number 2 on the shortages, potatoes. Yes. If you go into the store and you go to your frozen food section, most likely you're going to see a big gaping hole where the frozen potatoes should be. Hash browns, French fries, lots of different kinds of potatoes, and they're just not there, right? Now, if you're going to a higher end supermarket, then you may see frozen potatoes there. But if you go to discount places like Walmart, Aldi, where the prices are lower, you're going to see gaps and gaping holes where the potatoes are. This is also affecting the fresh potatoes. So bags of potatoes, you're going to notice that certain varieties just aren't there. Certain varieties of potatoes are not available anymore, and that is because we've had several years of bad potato harvests. Now, the potato harvest has just come in Idaho, so those potatoes are starting to work their way through the system. We should see these potato shortages alleviate over the next little bit, but Americans are eating a whole heck of a lot of potatoes, and it's taking time for the manufacturing companies to catch up. See what I did there? Catch up? They're trying to catch up to the demand, but the problem is that there's only so many factories that make the frozen potatoes and everything like that. And when they ran out of potatoes, they had to shut down. And then now that they're restarted, the problem is they have to resupply the system with those potatoes, and people are conditioned now to grabbing some frozen potatoes, because even if they don't need them, because they know that they might not be there next week. All right, number 3, what we're starting to see here, and we're going to see more coming into this year, is going to be canned tomatoes. Yes, potatoes and tomatoes. But a lot of tomatoes are grown, once again, over in California because of the drought. the tomatoes were a lot smaller, and a lot of tomato fields got plowed under because they got destroyed because they weren't able to be irrigated properly. We had a lot of fields that were not planted with tomatoes this year because they anticipated the irrigation problems. So we're seeing less than half the regular production of canned tomatoes out there. And so this is going to seriously, dramatically impact the availability of canned tomatoes going forward. Now the harvest did just come in, and those canneries are working overtime to make all the canned goods. So we're probably going to be good for a bit, but we're going to see spot shortages, and you're going to see those shortages not being filled very quickly. So if you need canned tomatoes, particularly, fresh tomatoes actually are grown in other parts of the country, and those seem like they might be able to hang on. So you may still see fresh tomatoes, but when it comes to canned tomatoes, those tend to be all grown rather quickly in California, and then they harvest all of them and shove them into cans in a very short period of time, and there just weren't as many this year. Overseas, they're having issues in Europe and such like that with tomatoes as well. They're having a big problem overseas in Europe with olives. This is not one of the numbered, but this is a freebie. We are continuing to see issues with olives, particularly high-end olives. In Spain as well as Italy, the olive harvests have been devastated. So olives are kind of having issues out there where I haven't seen availability issues for most varieties of olives in the United States yet. So I'm still waiting to see if that's going to kind of trickle through. I haven't seen any hard numbers on that where we are, but it sounds like we're going to be in a bad place, but it may take some time for it to trickle through. Another thing that you're probably seeing on your store shelves, number 4, is milk and milk products. If you're in a state like Pennsylvania where you have a mandatory minimum and selling milk, we're still seeing pretty good supply. Whereas if you go to other states that don't have the mandatory minimum, those places want to sell their milk to Pennsylvania. But a lot of places are having issues with milk, keeping milk on the shelf, particularly the higher fat grades. So creams, whole milk, things like chocolate milk, creamers, half and half, all these things that use a lot of the fats of the milk, these are having issues out there. So be aware, if you're looking for your eggnog, if you're looking for heavy cream, you're going to maybe actually have to make do with certain brands or certain varieties that you weren't necessarily planning on if you don't think ahead and grab it when you see it available. We're seeing a lot of issues and a lot of disruptions still with the creamers and the half and half and the heavy creams, especially as we go into the baking season. These things are disappearing a lot faster, and we're having the supply issues. All right, number 5, we're seeing issues with eggs. Yes, eggs. You've probably seen this already, and I'm beating a dead horse here. You probably already know that there are issues with eggs. You've gone to the store, whoa, why are all the eggs wiped out? Now, we're still seeing the kind of intermittent bursts of eggs. So if you get there at the right time, you're still going to be fine getting eggs. But there are certain times of the day at certain stores, you walk in and there just aren't any eggs. Not any of the affordable ones. If you want to get the free range ones, okay. If certain kinds of free range ones you can't find. If you're in the UK, you're having a harder time finding free range eggs because most of the birds are being locked down and they're not being allowed outside, and they can't be certified free range. So bird flu is really causing a headache with that. That's going to lead into the last one that we're going to talk about a little bit, about chicken as well. But eggs are a big deal. We've slaughtered millions and millions and millions of egg layers out there, and it's just really impacting the supply of eggs both in Europe as well as the United States. All right, next one, coffee. We are seeing issues trickling through the system of coffee. Now, coffee doesn't go from farm to shelf very quickly, and so that's why it's kind of taken time for this to go through. Last year, there's a really bad harvest in Brazil of coffee. They had a late frost that just decimated the coffee bean production of the Arabica coffee beans, and that's causing issues there. So coffee across the board it's having hiccups. So you may not find the right varieties that you want, particularly the cheaper varieties are disappearing faster. Folgers seems to have a hard time keeping on the shelves these days. So if you really like Folgers, you might want to reach out and grab some extra cans of that. Think ahead on that for the holidays as well, especially if you don't usually buy it and you're just getting it for guests that are coming in from out of town. You might want to grab that soon. And finally, we're going to be talking about chicken and beef. Now, chicken and beef, we're still mostly seeing it on the shelves, but you've probably noticed prices on chicken spiking upwards pretty dramatically, and that's been making people kind of back away from those shelves. If you see places with decent sales or decent prices on chicken, you're seeing it wiped out. You're seeing them disappear. So, I mean, I keep going to Sam's Club, and they keep not having the $5 chickens anymore. Decent prices means the chicken is getting wiped out. But what we're seeing is chicken prices going up, which indicates there is a shortage there. Additionally, beef. Beef availability has not been a problem just yet, except in certain varieties like canned beef. That's being an issue, as well as canned chicken is starting to sporadically be an issue as well. But beef prices are about to go through the roof. Now, is beef availability going to disappear? I don't know about that, but we've had a lot of herds being put down because people can't afford the feed for the cattle through the winter. Cattle have been pretty roughed up this past year for feed issues, as well as heat stroke. We lost a bunch this summer over that, but it's mostly the feed costs, and also we're seeing just the supply chain issues. So beef prices are up for consumers, but beef prices are not up for farmers who are turning the cattle into the packing plants. They're not getting paid more. The packing plants are basically taking all of the excess, and they're having a hard time keeping those places staffed. So farmers are not really being incentivized to raise more cattle, and especially with feed costs up, we're hearing from a lot of these guys that they're just saying, we're just had enough of this. We're not gonna go through all this calving and then also filling out herds, because it's just not worth the money. And so we're seeing that the cattle herds in the United States have been decimated. We're down 10%, I believe, right now of herd size over last year. We're down 10% herd size compared to last year. That is massive, folks. We're going to be seeing that really ripple through the meat markets. Now, more of those cattle have been going through the meat markets, and that's why prices have been relatively stable, even in the face of this impending upswing. And so a lot of the supermarkets and supply chain companies have been putting a lot of this beef into freezers, but there's only so much they can put into freezers to kind of mitigate some of this whiplash that we're about to experience coming up. So that's what I'm seeing here. 7 things, and I threw a couple other things in there. Supply chain issues we're seeing with manufacturing, parts, all that kind of stuff. But those supply chain things are going to directly impact you the most as a consumer, food-wise. If you have other things you want to point out, you can pop them down in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video to be useful, helpful, you might want to check out this other video from me right here. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you later. Steve Poplar out.